Welcome back to today in our exclusive town hall with Democratic presidential candidate Senator Bernie Sanders.
Undecided on their vote. Senator Sanders, good morning. Good to have you here.
Great to be with you.
And we're going to take the privilege of asking some of the first questions. I wanted to ask you about this dust-up with Secretary Clinton that's gone on over the last couple of days. You thought she had called you unqualified, that she had used that word to be president, and therefore you repaid the favor by saying she was not qualified. Given what you now know about what she actually said, do you think she is qualified to be president?
Well, what I now know is that after we have won 6 out of the last 7 caucuses and primaries, and in national polls, a couple of them, we are now in the lead, the Clinton campaign has changed its tone, and I think they were pretty public about it. And that is, when we come here to New York, they're going to be a lot more negative. And that's what you're seeing from their surrogates and from the tone of their campaign. So when the Washington Post has a headline that says that Clinton campaign thinks that Sanders is unqualified, we responded. But look,
did you overreact because you thought she said something more than she did?
Here's the truth. I've known Hillary Clinton for 25 years. I respect Hillary Clinton. We were colleagues in the Senate. And on her worst day, she would be an infinitely better president than either of the Republican candidates.
She's qualified.
Of course. But the point is, I would hope that we get away from these attacks, which, by the way, the media likes very much, and start focusing, maybe we could do that today, on the real issues that impact the American people.
Do you worry, though, Senator Sanders, that as this campaign goes on and on, that the damage is being done to whichever of you becomes the eventual nominee?
No, again, that's media stuff. Here's the real stuff. People out here want to know why they're working longer hours for low wages. Kids want to know why they're graduating college $50,000 or $70,000 in debt. People want to know why we have so much income and wealth inequality. What I have found in this campaign, let me be very honest with you, is the world of what the media is interested in and what the people are interested in is day and night. We have talked to now over 900,000 people in rallies. I've talked to people all over this country. Their reality, their world is very different from what media focuses on, and that's what we want to do right now.
All right, so let's get to some of those questions, all right? Willie Geist is joining us in the audience right now. He's got some real voters with real questions.
Right. Yes, we do. Senator Sanders, good morning again. I'm with Melissa. She's a registered Democrat from New York City, not yet made up her mind in this primary.
Good morning, Senator Sanders. We keep hearing that a woman candidate would be a better advocate for women. What will you do to address gender inequality and women's health issues?
Fantastic question. First of all, I talk to women all over this country. And Melissa, you know what they tell me? They're tired of making 79 cents on the dollar compared to men. I will fight as hard as I can for pay equity for women. They want that whole damn dollar and not 79 cents on the dollar. Second of all, in terms of women's health, I am 100% pro-choice. I think a woman has the right to control her own body, not state government or the federal government. Thirdly, I believe that we have got to join the rest of the industrialized world, guarantee health care to every man, woman, and child as a right. We have got to ask ourselves a hard question, which media often does not. And that is, why are we the only major country on earth that doesn't guarantee health care to all people? Why do we end up spending so much more per capita? Why are health care costs really impacting, in an incredible way, middle-class families? So we're going to fight for health care for all through a Medicare for all single-payer program. We will save middle-class families thousands of dollars a year on their health care.
I want to ask you something, and before you blame the media for this, Senator, this is something your campaign manager, Jeff Weaver, said. Caused a bit of a stir when he said, don't destroy, he was talking to Clinton supporters, don't destroy the Democratic Party to satisfy the Secretary's ambitions to become President of the United States. Do you agree with that comment?
You see, we're off to the gossip at all.
No. This is what your campaign manager said.
Yeah, I know, but is that an issue that people are staying up nights worrying about? What people are worried about is how we're going to have decent paying jobs. Jeff is doing a great job. We started at 3% in the polls. Last 2 out of 3 polls had us in the lead. I think what simply Jeff is trying to say here is that let's not run a negative campaign. Let's run a campaign which deals with the real issues impacting the American people. And what are those issues? Here's a question that we discussed. Why is it that for the last 30 years, the middle class has been in decline and there has been a massive transfer of wealth to the top 1/10 of 1%? Is that an issue that people are interested in? I think they are.
Let's go to Will. He's got another voter question.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
How often does NBC discuss that issue? Ever?
Discuss what?
The issue of massive transfer of wealth that's going to the top 1/10.
We're discussing it right now.
Yeah,
We're giving you 16 minutes of airtime to discuss it.
Well, let's discuss it a lot more than 16 minutes.
Let's let it get a questioner in, shall we? Willie, go right ahead.
All right, Senator Sanders, one of the great things about this plaza is it brings people from all over the country. This is Kyle from Ohio. He's a registered independent who supports you.
Morning, Senator Sanders. It's a pleasure to get a chance to see you today. My question is this. If you're elected president, how specifically would you go about breaking up banks that are too big to fail?
Fantastic question. Fantastic question. For a start, we bailed out, the Congress against my vote, bailed out Wall Street because it was believed that there were a number of banks too big to fail, and if they failed, they would take down half of the economy. It turns out that today, 3 out of the 4 largest banks in this country are bigger than they were when we bailed them out because they were too big to fail. You could approach that issue in a number of ways. The one preferable way for me is passing legislation that I have introduced, which gives the Secretary of the Treasury the authority to determine which banks, if they failed, would pose a systemic risk to our economy and then break them up. Right now, we have the 6 largest financial institutions in this country having assets equivalent to 58% of the GDP of America. They issue 2/3 of the credit cards and 1/3 of the mortgages. In my view, that is too much economic and political power in the hands of a few banks. I would reestablish Glass-Steagall legislation and, in fact, move to break them up.
Could you get those initiatives through the Congress as it is composed right now?
I think we could if the American people demand that. And I think the American people were disgusted and sick and tired, really angry, that they had to bail out Wall Street, whose greed, recklessness, and illegal behavior nearly destroyed our economy. They don't want that to happen again.
If you had a Republican House and Senate, you believe you could get the legislation you just talked about passed?
One of the points about this campaign is we talk about a political revolution. And that means involving millions of people in the political process. I believe that the American people are pretty solid about not wanting to bail out Wall Street again. They want Wall Street to start helping the middle class, not the middle class bailing them out.
One of the things about big banks, Senator, is that they also employ hundreds of thousands of Americans.
Yes. Right.
If you break up the big banks, what happens to the tens of thousands of people who lose their jobs?
Well, what I think happens, Matt, in any transition is that people find different jobs because the economy becomes transformed. So what you will see is that more community banks, credit unions, and smaller banks will be hiring more people. It's not just a zero-sum game. But bottom line is, to me, I think we want a financial system which pays attention to small and medium-sized businesses, to consumers. Consumers are tired, I think, of being ripped off with very high interest rates on credit cards. So, we're going to have a banking system that I think will be stronger and hiring people in different ways.
Willie, go.
All right, let's move over here, guys. We've got Rob from New York City, registered Democrat, not yet made up his mind. What's your question, sir?
Why do you think gun manufacturers should get immunity from lawsuits? Would that extend to cell phone manufacturers? Why do you think gun manufacturers should be given immunity from lawsuits? Would that extend to cell phone manufacturers, airlines?
Well, this is what I think. What I think is, if Matt is a gun store owner in northern Vermont and he sells me a legal product, I purchase a gun, and then I use that gun to do something terrible, should Matt be sued? And the answer is, I think not.
Why do you keep picking on me?
All right. Point being, if somebody sells me a legal product and I do something crazy with it, should I be sued? And the answer is no.
But every other company is open to lawsuits. Why are gun manufacturers given a special a reprieve from liability? I think that's his question.
Well, the answer is that if you sell me a car, if you sell me a gun and the gun explodes in my hand, of course you're liable to be sued. But if the product works the way it was designed to work, then I do not believe that that gun owner should be sued. But here's what I do think. If I walk into your gun shop and I say, hey, give me 10,000 rounds of ammunition and I want 63 assault weapons, you know what? I think you might want to call up the police and say, I got a guy in here who legally wants to do it, but something sounds a little bit crazy.
In that scenario, the gun shop owner could be liable.
Yes, absolutely. If you have a reason to believe that somebody's going to do something crazy with it, and by the way, if you are a gun manufacturer and you know that the guns you're selling to somebody's gun shop is ending up in the hands of criminals, and you have a right to know that, you should be sued as well. So you don't get blanket immunity under my...
Just settle something for me a second. There was some legislation proposed a while back, and you made some comments that made it sound like you were supporting it. This would have done away with that immunity. You said, I support it. I'm happy it's being raised. I could support that bill. Did you support it, or did you not understand what was in that bill?
I understood it perfectly. And my concerns were, I do not want people who sell a product that is legal to be sued. On the other hand, if they know that that product, or reason to believe that product is going to be used to get into that gun to get in the hands of criminals, of course they should be sued.
We put a call out for online question. Carson's over in our orange room and has a question for you, Senator Sanders.
Good morning, Senator Sanders.
Let me go back to the gun issue so we be clear on this.
Yep.
I've got a D- voting record from the NRA, and I lost an election back in 1988. You know why? Because I said that assault weapons should not be sold or distributed in the United States.
They've also recently... The NRA has stated your position on the liability issue with approval. It approves of your position there.
On that issue.
Yes.
But I do have a D- voting record
Fair
from the
enough.
NRA.
Point taken. Carson, take it away.
All right, your questions coming in on Twitter using the hashtag Bernie Today. Let's get to one here from Zim World writing, are there any regrets so far in your campaign that you wish you could go back and change?
I think that what we should have done is perhaps even more retail politics, even more small rallies than we have done. I mean, I'm very proud of the fact that we've had some 900,000 people come out to our rallies, but we haven't done as many smaller outdoor rallies. And by the way, we're going to rectify that right here in New York City. We're going to be going around the city to neighborhoods and communities. I love that. This is the kind of stuff that I love. So we may be dropping into your neighborhood. Please come on out to the rallies and ask some questions. We'll have a good time.
Let me ask you this, Senator. In a recent interview,
I'm sorry?
In a recent interview, you said that the GOP civil war that we're all watching right now could lead to a real dissolution of the Republican Party as we know it. As a revolutionary on the other side, do you take some joy in that prospect?
Well, here's what I think. I think that when people understand what the Republican Party really stands for and gets beyond personalities, that most of my colleagues in the United States Senate want to give hundreds of billions of dollars in tax breaks to the top 0.2% by repealing the estate tax, that they want to cut Social Security, they want to cut Medicare, they want to cut Medicaid. They do not believe that a woman has a right to control her own body. Most of them do not even believe in the reality of climate change, let alone doing something about it. I think when the American people understand that, the Republican Party becomes a fringe party. Now, on the other hand, you have other Republicans who I think are sensible. They're more conservative than I am, obviously. They're worried about the deficit, which is a little legitimate, very legitimate concern. But I think this right-wing extremist Republican Party, their agenda is not the agenda of the American people. More people know about it, the less support they will get.
Willie.
Sanders, I'm with Verda from New York City, registered independent and a supporter of yours.
Good morning, Senator Sanders.
Good morning.
My question is, you mentioned a political revolution, and if you don't win the election, what will you do to continue to galvanize all of these amazing young people that are supporting you, as well as those of us that didn't even know you before you started?
That is a wonderful question.
And we should mention, we have about a minute left.
About
just
1
to let
minute.
you know.
All right, the answer, we will, obviously, our hope and expectation is that we're going to win, but that's a fair question. We have brought out and seen so much excitement on young people, on the part of young people who have so much hope for this country, who want to make our country a better place. We will continue that revolution.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your question. There was one that came in on Twitter, Senator, and I loved it, so why don't we end on this? And it was very simple. Corned beef or pastrami?
Pastrami all the way. There you go.
Can we also mention that your wife, Jane, is here in the front row? And Mrs. Sanders, it's great to have you here in New York. Nice to see you.
Senator Sanders, do you consider New York a must-win for your campaign?
It's a very important state. I don't consider any state a must-win, but there are a lot of delegates here, and I was born and raised in Brooklyn. Know a little bit about the city, and we look forward to doing very well here.
Well, Senator, it's really nice to have you here. Good luck in New York. Thank you to all the people who've come out in the cold to ask really important questions. And we look forward to seeing you in the months ahead.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Hello, Today fans. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking that button down there and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives.